Namaste. Thank you for joining me today. So the purpose of this short workshop is to just try to introduce you to Ayurvedic cooking. I won't be cooking in the video, but my goal is to have you begin to set up a very simple Ayurvedic kitchen. When you look at these recipes in Ayurvedic cookbooks, it can be a little bit overwhelming because you probably don't have the majority of the spices. So again, the goal is just a short workshop on how do I begin? How do I begin to set up a kitchen? How do I begin to eat Ayurvedically? And even just a little taste of why might I want to eat Ayurvedic foods. So we'll start with mantra, as we always do. And some of you might be familiar with this mantra. It's called the Maha Mrityunjaya mantra. And I'll read you this translation that I received from one of my teachers. I meditate on and surrender myself to the Divine Being who embodies the power of will, knowledge, and action. I pray to the Divine Being who manifests in the form of fragrance in the flower of life and is the eternal nourisher of the plant of life. Like a skillful gardener, may the Lord of life disentangle me from my binding forces of my physical, psychological, and spiritual foes. May the Lord of immortality residing within me free me from death, decay, sickness, and unite me with immortality. This mantra awakens the healing force within. It's healing, it's nourishing, and it's strengthening. It strengthens the power of will, knowledge, and action, unblocking the flow of enthusiasm, courage, and determination. The vibration of this mantra empowers us to overcome all obstacles while empowering the healer within. This mantra activates the source of all healing and helps us receive the full nourishment from food, herbs, or any discipline undertaken for our total well-being. It brings auspiciousness and happiness to life. So chant the mantra 3 times. If you know it, please join me. If not, just listen. So if your feet are on the ground, if you're sitting in a chair like myself, just bring the awareness to the feet. Prana, or energy that is intelligence, is said to move in 5 ways. And apana is the downward moving force of prana. Apana or apana has to do with elimination, forgiveness, feeling of groundedness, connectedness. So this is what we're looking for in cooking, in food. It's a way to connect yourself to the earth. Breathe down into your feet. Feel your feet get heavy. And then imagine or feel the earth grounding into your feet. So there's an upward moving flow from the earth, udana, that inspires and uplifts us. Take the time to just feel. Let's chant Om together 3 times. And then I'll do call and response with you of the Maha Mrityunjaya mantra. If you like, repeat what you hear. Trayambagam yajamahe. Om Trayambagam yajamahe. Sugandhim pushtivardhanam. Sugandhim pushtivardhanam. Urdvarukamiva bandhanan. Urdvarukamiva bandhanan. Mrityormukshiyamamritat. Mrityormukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambagam yajamahe. Om Trayambagam yajamahe. Sugandhim pushtivardhanam. Sugandhim pushtivardhanam. Urdvarukamiva bandhanan. Urdvarukamiva bandhanan. Mrityormukshiyamamritat. Mrityormukshiyamamritat. Om Trayambagam yajamahe. Sugandhim pushtivardhanam. Urdvarukamiva bandhanan. Mrityormukshiyamamritat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Jai Ma. Well, thank you. I hope that you're able to chant the mantra and follow along, as mantra is quite a extraordinary practice, extraordinary wisdom. It said that mantra carries the meaning in the vibration of sound. So you don't even necessarily need to know what the mantra means to receive the nourishment from the sound. So anyway, before I go on a tangent, there's many things, to talk about, but like I said in the beginning of this talk, I want to make it really basic, and there are definitely ways to make this basic. So I don't know if you've had a chance to study Ayurveda and know what your constitution or your prakriti is. The vata, the air, the pitta, the fire, and the kapha is the water. So we do have 3 lectures on the website that you can look at about basically what is Ayurveda, an introduction to the dosha. So yes, it's a very complex, extraordinary vidya, and Ayurveda is considered, as most of you know, a sister science to yoga. So yoga, in the largest sense, is science of self-realization. That's the goal, right? Self-realization is the goal of yoga. And I have a beautiful quote. Some of you that study with me know that this is one of my favorites quotes from Baba Muktananda. And he's very tantric in his teaching. So this is quite beautiful because Tantra is the path of the householder, probably you, since you're watching this video. So he says this: no matter how hard you find the practices, if you keep trying, You will find the truth in your austerity. In effort, there is attainment. In effort is the goal. The practice itself is the goal. Your work itself is the goal. It is not that you are working and one day you attain the goal. Your work, your duty is the goal. When you turn inside, this becomes completely clear. Thank you. So, Ayurveda is basically, in a nutshell, the kind of medicinal side to yoga. So we could say, in a sense, that Ayurveda supports your practice, whether it's yoga, tantra, anyway, it's going to support that practice. Ayurveda is the science or vidya of living in harmony with the nature. Yes, so we want to establish a relationship to nature. So on my table here, I have many things that we'll go over. And if I overwhelm you, then I'm sorry. I'm trying not to. So this Murti is a statue. I was so happy to find this in India. I wish I found a bigger one, but she's beautiful. Annapurna. Annapurna is the Devi of basically nourishment. So do you have to do this? Of course not. But these are just offerings, and some of you will enjoy this, and some of you are like, that's not something I need to do. So something you may want to consider when setting up your Ayurvedic kitchen is creating a little altar space. Now, we don't need to necessarily think that an altar is something religious, right? You can put anything in your altar space. You can put a hibiscus, right? Very beautiful flower. You can have a little tiny bowl where you put a little bit of the food that you made as an offering to whatever you think is most divine. So in your kitchen, you can have a little small space, if you'd like, to have a little altar. Maybe you have a little incense. It's completely up to you. But it creates a kind of sacred space. Right? So just like in your sadhana space where you do your yoga meditation practice, I'm sure you have images of something, or maybe you have the 5 elements on your altar. It anchors you, right? It grounds you and it brings you to the space. So I think it's sweet. One of my teachers, Yogini Shambhavi, would talk about creating this kind of, sweet little altar in your space. And Ayurveda, of course, speaks of it too. So one thing I will suggest that's very helpful, and maybe some of you already have this happening, that's wonderful, but maybe some of you don't. And it's doing what we call a kitchen sadhana. Okay, so I'm using that word sadhana a little bit loosely, because usually when we say sadhana, we mean, spiritual meditation practice. Well, I'm suggesting that you create a kind of kitchen sadhana. So maybe you put on some bhajans, maybe you put on, whatever greatest hits that you like, or you're listening to your Ayurvedic yogic lectures or something. Whatever it is, put on some incense and clean your kitchen. So you need to go through all of your cabinets. I know it can sound overwhelming, but you're going to dedicate time to it. So here it is. This is the room I'm going to deal with now, and it's the kitchen. And you're just going to go through the cabinets and rid yourself of what you do not use. So I recently did this again, because this is something you have to do repeatedly, just like sadhana is a practice that you need to continue repeatedly. So you start accumulating stuff, yes? So sure enough, I had to do it the other day. I had a plethora of Tupperware, and I don't need 50 Tupperwares. So donate the other half or give them to your friends. Only use what you actually need. Create space in the kitchen. Space is going to give rise to creativity. right? So when there's a lot of stuff in the space, I'm sure maybe you're viewing this during the COVID time, and you're supposed to be like cleaning your house, because what else are you going to do? So you got to clean your house, and it can become very overwhelming, especially if you have a lot of stuff. So it's kind of an overflow of earth, or maybe what we could say, some of you know the terminology tamas. Tamas is that which kind of makes us feel maybe a little bit depressed, or a little bit like, forget it. I'm just going back to the couch and I'm going to binge watch whatever you want to binge watch. So when we clear the space, right, it gives rise to creativity, and the dosha that is usually associated with space and creativity is vata. Well, interestingly enough, this is a generalization, by the way. Okay, so in Ayurveda, we always say it depends, right? So for some vata, air type constitutional types, cooking is not something that they're stoked on, right? They love moving, right? Vata loves to move, Vata loves to create. Vata doshas have a tendency to be quite thin, right? Thin-skinned, tiny little bones, thin hair, changing personality, kind of always moving, always on the go. And this will have a tendency, if they're not nourishing themselves, to obviously deplete themselves. So Vatas are really into and value space, right? The way the space looks. If I had a strong Vata constitutional type come in and work on my set here, I bet it would look different, right? It would look different. Somehow they would change something, and most likely it would be a very positive change. So they're very sensitive to space and how energy moves in space. So to kind of to help harmonize and to help balance that Vata constitutional type, organize the space, right? Create harmony in the space by ridding yourself of everything that you really don't need, and beautify the space, right? It's like the first step in creating this kind of Ayurvedic kitchen. And if that's already happening for you, that's wonderful. But for some of us, myself included, it doesn't happen so easily. So I have to place effort on creating the kitchen to be feeling like a sacred space. Then you will want to spend time in that space. Okay, so setting up your space, setting up your place where now you're going to create. You're going to create meals for yourself or your family. Okay, so now with Ayurvedic foods, Ayurvedic food is different from Indian food, right? Indian food will not commonly take into consideration, I mean, I'm sure some do, I'm sure, but they won't always take into consideration poor food combining, or certain recipes will be way too hot for, say, Pitta dosha, or certain recipes may have too much yogurt, which can have a tendency to be a little bit cool and damp for the Kapha dosha. So they don't really necessarily take into consideration all the time Ayurveda. So when you're starting to create this Ayurvedic kitchen, what you want to do is go ahead and buy yourself an Ayurvedic cookbook. There's many, and clearly I don't have all of them. The first Ayurvedic cookbook I ever got, it doesn't have the cover anymore, clearly I use it all the time, it's called Eat, Taste, Heal. They used to have a restaurant on Kauai. It was something like the Lotus. But anyway, this is a beautiful book, and the whole beginning of this text will educate you on the doshas. It'll educate you on the 6 tastes, which we'll just touch on. Again, I don't want to overwhelm, but it'll give you a very kind of clear way of seeing yourself through the lens of the doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Okay, and then they have recipes that are simple only if you have the ingredients. And then they have more like complex recipes towards the back. Sometimes I get the question, is Ayurveda vegetarian? Is it all vegetarian? Well, that's a great question. No. Although Ayurveda is going to promote, in some aspects, vegetarianism, because it's a sister science to yoga. And yoga will talk about ahimsa. And ahimsa, of course, many of you know, is nonviolence. So Ayurveda will use meat medicinally. Meat is heavy. Vata is light, right? So Vata dosha constitutions are light. So in Ayurveda, right, like attracts like. So if I am Vata Prakriti or Vata constitution, which of course you have all three constitutions, again refer to the other videos, but if I have predominantly Vata constitutional type, I have a lot of air, space. If that is in excess, I'm going to crave things that are light, airy, and spacey, like salad, like popcorn, like crackers, like chips, cereal, right? Kind of easy, quick, convenient foods that are also light and dry. So Ayurveda is going to say, that, my friend, is going to cause more light and dryness. So like attracts like. So why am I telling you this? Because meat is heavy. So it might be acceptable to eat a very small amount of meat if you like to. Do you have to? Of course not. But if you're open to it and that doesn't, affect your way of seeing the world, the way of, treating animals, and you're okay with eating meat, eat a small amount, right? Like small. So you never want to eat like, I don't even know what that meat is called, but it's a really big slab of it. Prime rib, right? You would never want to eat a prime rib. It would be very hard to digest that amount of meat. So we would say for Vata constitution, a small amount of meat is okay. Okay? So just putting it out there. Meat is also heating, especially red meat, right? So Pitta constitutional types don't do well with meat. Now, this will not line up with common diets, like paleo diet or ketogenic diet. I'm not saying anything's wrong with those diets, but what those diets do not take into consideration is your uniqueness, right? So if I am high Pitta constitution, and I were to choose to eat a paleo diet that is high in meat, that would most likely increase my Pitta. So we're not interested in increasing the dosha. Okay, so vegetarian food is sattvic, right? Some of you know this term, sattva. So sattva is one of the three gunas. Sattva is peace, it's calm, it's maybe we could say adaptability, tranquility, right? The ability to kind of just, go with the flow, to not show too much excitement or too much disappointment, being able to be in the moment, non-judgmental, probably all qualities you would think of someone who is a yogin or a yogini to have. So sattvic diet is considered to be vegetarianism. Well, that's great. So there is this wonderful book, really wonderful. It's called Everyday Ayurveda Cooking for a Calm, Clear Mind. 100 Simple Sattvic Recipes by Kate O'Donnell. So I'll show you this book. What a wonderful offering. Thank you, Kate, for creating this book for us. Okay, so now you can go ahead and pick, go on your Amazon and go ahead and start researching some Ayurveda cookbooks. You need an Ayurveda cookbook to get started by creating your Ayurveda kitchen, because you're going to need to sit down with your cookbook, whichever one it is. I'll name the other ones I have here, and you'll sit down and you're going to start to look through the recipes, right? So, okay. All right, I made this. So here we go. Here's a recipe for mung bean fritters. What are mung beans? Well, unfortunately, I'm out. So I don't have any to show you, but they're very small beans and they're extremely easy to digest. So mung beans is definitely something you're going to put on your list. Now, another thing is when you sit down with your Ayurveda book, not only are you going to look over the ingredients, you're going to read how to make it, because most often you have to prepare beforehand. And it's not some like huge preparation. It may be something, and probably is, something so simple as soak the beans overnight. So, of course, when I first started cooking Ayurvedically, I would skip this step because I was like, okay, what am I going to have right now? Very pitta, constitutional type. What am I going to have right now? So I open up the recipe. Okay, soak the beans for an hour soak the beans overnight so that they're easy to digest. And I said, I have great digestion. I don't need to soak these beans, right? I'll be good. No, you won't, right? Your stomach will be distended, whether it's the top or the bottom, and you will not assimilate the food. So that brings us, slightly sidetracked, to assimilation. So Ayurveda says you are not what you eat, you are what you digest. How are you digesting your food? How do I know that I'm digesting my food? Well, there's a couple things. One is, how do you feel after you eat? So after you have a meal, how do you feel? Are you ready for a nap? Are you awake? Are you, ready to continue on? Do you feel sluggish? Are you hot? How do you feel after you eat? Do you have a bowel movement every day? Okay, so this is important, right? It is important to have a bowel movement every day, preferably in the morning when you wake up. So this may give some of you a little bit of anxiety. If that's not happening for you, please don't worry, because worry just increases anxiety. So there are things that we can do to help stimulate the bowel and to help strengthen our Agni. So Agni is our digestive fire. It's called Jatara Agni. So this Agni is that which transforms your food into nourishment. So if I am, say, I am eating when I'm not hungry, that is going to put out that fire. It's going to lose its potency. Maybe you're eating, too close to a meal you just ate. So Ayurveda suggests to have 4 hours, maybe 3 if you're totally starving, but 4 hours of no eating in between breakfast and lunch, and in between lunch and dinner. So you're doing like a short mini fast, right? 4 hours of no food. You want to be hungry when you eat. So this brings up another topic. What if I wake up, Mary, and I'm not a breakfast person? I don't eat breakfast. I'm not hungry. Well, maybe you're Kapha dosha. Maybe you have a strong Kapha constitution. Kapha is earth and water. It can be sluggish. It can be heavy. They have slow digestion. So perhaps you're not hungry because your digestion is very slow. So maybe for breakfast, as a Kapha dosha personality, you have something light, right? Something light. Maybe you have a piece of fruit. Maybe you have some just tea, and that's enough for you. Fine. But the other constitutional types should eat 3 meals, right? So I know intermittent fasting is very popular, and intermittent fasting can have benefits once in a while, but Ayurveda does not suggest intermittent fasting as a normal everyday regime. Okay, so another way to strengthen your Agni, right, your digestive fire, is to drink this tea. So here's the brand from, of course, an extraordinary company, Banyan Botanicals. Of course, they're not the only Ayurvedic company out there. There's many. VPK is another company you can order from. Chandika is another company. My first Ayurvedic doctor, Dr. Suhas, he has a store online, so you just look up Dr. Suhas Kirshagar. Also, Kerala Ayurveda has products. Himalayan Institute also has products. So anyway, or you just buy the ingredients in this and make your own. It's very simple. So CCF stands for cumin, coriander, and fennel. So this is a beautiful little tin. Sorry, I spilt mine on the way up here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a tefton. I think that's how you say it. And there's these little cups in here where you put your main spices. So it makes things really convenient for when you're going to cook, because most of the spices that are in your recipes, you're going to have the main ones in this, I think it's tefton. Let me see. Sorry. Tifton. So in your tifton, you'll have, say, mustard seeds, right? So there's your mustard seeds. I have turmeric, which I spilled everywhere, fennel, cumin, coriander, cloves, and this one has anise. So you can have your main spices in this, and it's very convenient. So anyway, CCFT is made by cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds, and you can do equal portions, and you can drink this throughout the day, especially if you're like, I do not go to the bathroom, I'm never hungry, or I'm always starving, right? It starts to bring balance and harmony to the digestive system. I don't think you can OD on CCFT. You can make a big thermos. Those of you who have to go to work and leave your home, you can make a big thermos of it and then drink it throughout the day. The coriander seeds, right, will float to the top. So I just pick them off with a spoon and leave the other herbs at the bottom, or you can strain it. It's up to you. I don't know how sensitive you are to strength of things. So the CCFT is very good to have. You can have it with a meal, right? Just a small amount. You can have it after a meal, a small amount. You can have it in the morning when you first wake up. You can have it when you go to bed. You can just drink it, right? About food in your stomach, you never want to eat till you're full. You know how that feels when you're stuffed. You feel, first of all, like, why did I do that? Because I don't want to feel like this. And it's very hard to digest when there's no movement in the stomach because you've filled up completely. So in regards to drinking water during a meal or CCFT, we really just want to sip a very small amount, right? You don't want to guzzle a whole bunch of water and then eat your meal. Your food's going to be like sloshing around in your stomach. Or do you want to drink a whole bunch of water right after your meal? Same thing. It's going to dampen the digestion, and that flame is basically going out. Another thing that's going to weaken this Agni is cold food. Smoothies, ice water, whatever, iced tea, I don't know, whatever it is you drink that is cold is going to put out that fire. Okay, so one of the main purposes of using herbs and these beautiful spices in Ayurveda is it helps assimilate the food. It helps cook the food. So it actually has a purpose. And it tastes really good, but the main purpose is to help the digestion. So this is where Ayurvedic food feels medicinal. Yeah? Okay. So another thing to help your digestion, maybe some of you know, is ginger, lime, and I don't have the other thing because it's downstairs, is pink Himalayan salt, right? So especially if your digestion is very sluggish, right? You can cut, just a thin slice of ginger, squeeze the lime on it, put a little bit of salt, and chew that. Now, if you have a very hot digestion like me, right, I put the ginger in my mouth and it's way too much. It's way too strong. So what I do is I squeeze the lime, which is more cooling than lemon, in the hot water, and I put a small slice of ginger in the water. So I can taste it, but it's not too spicy. It's not too hot. So it's just going to depend on what feels right for you. So if you're chewing it and it's just like too much, it's too intense, try putting it in your hot water with lime. Okay? So if you're going to chew it, ginger, lime, a little bit of salt, you have before each meal. What you can do is make a little batch for the week. So you cut up a bunch of slices, squeeze an entire lemon in your little glass Tupperware, sprinkle some salt, right? Move it around, and you're all ready to go. So while you're cooking, you can take a slice and eat it before your meal. So this can really help with your digestion. So some people prefer lemon. That's fine. Oh, there's a heart on the lime. How sweet is that? That's awesome. Anyway, some people prefer lemon. Lemon is very acidic. Lemon can be a little bit too heating for pitta. In the summertime is the pitta season, so we want to start bringing in more cooling foods. So lime is a little bit more cooling. But again, I'm keeping this very simple. So how I started an Ayurvedic kitchen was first the kitchen sadhana, creating the sacred little altar, and then sitting down with the books. So this is a necessary book for Ayurvedic cooking. And everything I want to say in this workshop that I'm not going to is in this book, such as food guidelines for basic constitutional types. And he will list, this is Dr. Vasant Lad, yes? He will list for Vata, all fruits, not all fruits, what kinds of fruits should you avoid? Cranberries, dried dates, pomegranates, dry raisins, raw apples, etc. Why? Because all those things are going to increase air and space. Yes, so he goes through, which can be a little overwhelming. So, you don't have to get too strict with yourself. He even has a test in the book on determining your constitutional type. Bonus, right? And then he has recipes, obviously, but he also has a nice page on incompatible food combining, which I always have to go back to. I don't know why. Maybe it's my mind doesn't want to admit that I can't eat these foods together. So here's an example. This one I don't find myself having a problem with. Radishes you should not eat with banana, raisins, and milk. Well, that doesn't sound good, so I've never even desired to have a radish with milk. But how about, no one likes this one, yogurt with fruit. Right? Everyone has fruit with yogurt. There's fruit in yogurt all over at the grocery store. Eggs with yogurt, fish with yogurt, meat with yogurt, milk and yogurt. Eggs with fruit. So you would not want to have a big glass of orange juice, right, with your eggs in the morning. Eggs with beans and cheese. So breakfast burritos are kind of out the door. Eggs with khichdi. Maybe you don't know what that is yet, but we're going to talk about it. eggs with meat, eggs with milk. So some people put milk in the eggs and then cook the scrambled eggs. Beans, beans with cheese, beans with eggs, beans with fish. Beans with milk, beans with meat, beans with yogurt. So anyway, it's kind of a depressing page, but it's there. So your body cannot digest these things. So when your body cannot digest these food combinations together, it creates what we call ama. Ama is basically undigested food. It's also undigested thought and emotion, but right now we're talking about food. So ama is undigested food. So think of ama like a thick, heavy, white mass of grossness in your digestive tract that prevents you from assimilating food. So, how can I minimize this ama so I can digest my food properly? Well, one way is to don't food combine those things that I just mentioned to you. Another way is to have your hot water with lime, and if you can handle it, some ginger. Another way to help remove ama is very important, is to scrape your tongue. The first time I scraped my tongue, I was so grossed out. So you want to buy a nice steel tongue scraper. They're very easy to get. All these Ayurvedic websites will have them. I wouldn't use a plastic one. You can use the back of a spoon if you want. That's fine too. And you're going to stick your tongue out. I brush my teeth first, stick the tongue out, and then scrape your tongue. And it's like a U-shaped. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. And you'll look at it and you'll see, is there ama? So if there's a lot of white matter stuck to that tongue scraper, you got it. You have ama. So you want to scrape the tongue at least 7 times, and it's so beautiful, right? That's a whole nother workshop, looking at the tongue, but it's so beautiful because you'll see how the days that you ate well, right? The days that you had a good bowel movement, you were able to digest your food, you didn't have poor food combining, you didn't eat too late, the next morning you will not have a lot of ama. Now sometimes when you fast, that's a whole nother lecture, but if you were to fast for some reason, because your Ayurveda doctor told you you need to fast, or you're fasting for religious reasons, that there might be a lot of ama that comes out on the tongue. It's kind of detoxing, right? So scraping your tongue is just as important as brushing your teeth. I would not suggest you brush your tongue because your tongue is an organ, right? So you don't want to brush it, you want to scrape it off, okay? So scrape your tongue. Have your hot water with lemon or lime, maybe some ginger, or you can have your CCF tea in the morning, or just drink it throughout the day. Yeah? So that will be very helpful in removing ama. Another thing that's going to be helpful is once in a while having a mono diet. Now, Ayurveda uses khichdi. Khichdi is so easy to make, it's ridiculous. So one time I did a, what do you call that, Instagram video. And I had my iPhone, right, and I'm videoing myself making the khichdi. And then after I was done, I realized it's so easy. I made khichdi with one hand because my other hand was holding my phone, videoing myself making this khichdi. So I'll read what Dr. Lodz has in his book about khichdi. Khichdi is a seasoned mixture of rice. We use basmati rice. Why do we use basmati rice? Because it's really easy to digest. Remember, you are what you digest. So this is an aromatic rice that is extremely easy to digest. It's easier to digest than brown rice. White rice, white basmati rice is what you want to use. I just use it all the time for the most part. Okay. Basmati rice and mung dal both have the qualities of being sweet and cooling with a sweet aftertaste. Together, they create a very balanced food that is an excellent protein combination and is tridoshic. What does that mean? Tridoshic means it balances vata, pitta, and kapha. This complete food is easy to digest, gives strength and vitality. Ooh, so that is going to raise a flag that strength and vitality is something that we're probably going to need if vata is in excess. And if you're watching this during COVID lockdown, vata is going to go up, right? We're uncertain. When is it going to end? Are my kids going to be able to go to school? Am I going to be able to open my yoga studio? I don't know, right? It's not up to me. I have no control over that. So that can elevate vata. So khichdi is something I'm eating with my family every day. Okay, it nourishes all the tissues of the body. So the plasma, the blood, the muscle, the bone, the nervous, the fat, etc. So it nourishes all of these tissues. It's excellent for detoxification and de-aging of the cells. The proportions are usually 2 parts rice to 1 part dal. Okay, so khichdi is, I would suggest to you, where you should start. So this is what I love about Lad's book. By the way, every recipe he has here says I shouldn't say every. A majority of the recipes he has here are tridoshic. So you'll see if you decide to buy this book, which you totally should, it'll say V, arrow down, P, arrow down, K, arrow down. That means it grounds, it balances vata, pitta, kapha. If it said V, arrow up, that would mean it increases vata. So maybe if your vata is high or your vata prakriti, maybe you don't favor that menu. Can you eat it once in a while? Sure. David Frawley always says it's not what you do once in a while that's so important, but what you do every day. So in Lad's book, he has, I think it's 4. Oh, I never seen this one. Tapioca khichdi. But there's 4 main recipes he has. One's for pacifying vata, one's for pacifying pitta, one for kapha, and then he has a tridoshic one. Okay, so maybe you take the Ayurveda questionnaire and you find out, I am mainly pitta constitution, so I'm going to go for this mung dal khichdi for pitta. Okay, so you sit down, you have your piece of paper. Okay, I need mung dal. Boom. I need basmati rice. I need ginger. I need shredded coconut, cilantro, water obviously, ghee, clarified butter, right? Cultured ghee is the best. Ghee doesn't have lactose, so it's called the nectar of the gods. So once I heard whoever said that to me, I said, okay, I'm on it. I'll have the ghee. Some people at first are a little adverse to the taste. It's different, right? It's butter, but it doesn't have the milk solids. So it does taste different, and this is what you use to open the spices in your food. Now, if you're like, Mary, I'm vegan, maybe this is one exception you can make. Get really good ghee. So this is handmade, or you can make your own, by the way, handmade, pure Indian food, organic, grass-fed, cultured ghee. So sourced from small farms, organic, suitable for high heat, non-GMO, right? So made from non-homogenized whole milk from grass-fed cows. So get good ghee. I have never seen good ghee in the store. I've seen average ghee. So you want to get this online. Okay, so ghee, if you're like, no, Mary, I'm not using ghee, then you can use coconut oil. Yep. Okay, I need mustard seeds, cumin seeds, cinnamon stick, turmeric, salt, and of course, water. So there's your recipe. Okay, so now you got to get all that stuff. You got to get all those spices. What I recommend to students is you want to prepare for the next day, right? So, I don't know, after you have dinner, ideally you want to have dinner before it's dark. Now that may not work for you depending upon where you live, but let's say you don't have dinner after 7. Okay, so 7 o'clock is dinner time. That gives me at least 3 hours to digest the food before I go to bed. Bedtime's at 10. Okay, so maybe in that time between 7 and 10, you sit down with some CCFT, or if you have insomnia, right, if you have difficulty sleeping, I would highly suggest this amazing drink. Now, there's many ways you can make it. I'm just trying to make this super easy, so you're going to need milk. That's up to you, what kind of milk you want to use. Almond milk is awesome. Almond milk is so easy to make, so is cashew milk. Almond milk right now, here you go. You take a cup of almonds, you soak them in water overnight. The next day you drain the water, you throw them in a blender with 3 cups of water, a little bit of Himalayan pink salt, like a little dash, blend it. You get a milk bag. You can order that on Amazon. Nut milk bag. Write that down. You pour it in and you squeeze. And now you have fresh almond milk. And all the pulp that's left, you can make sweets with them. You can make treats with them. So you just go online and look up almond meal treats. And it's like those like energy balls, like honey or dates or almond butter. You can add, make these little energy balls so you don't waste that almond meal. So anyway, whatever kind of milk you want to use that's easy to digest. So what's going to make it digestible? Well, fresh is first, and second is we're going to heat the milk. So we never drink milk cold, especially cow milk, right? It creates mucus, it creates ama. If you love ice cream, I love ice cream. Ice cream is so good. Have ice cream in the middle of the day when your digestion is hot and it's summer. Have some mint ice cream or whatever your favorite flavor is. Okay, so at nighttime between 7 and 10, if those of you who have insomnia or there's a lot of anxiety due to, who knows, you want to ground. You want to get heavy, right, before you sleep. You don't want to stuff your face with popcorn and alcohol before you go to bed. So, a cup of milk, a dash of vanilla, cinnamon or cinnamon stick, whatever you have is fine, and a little bit of cardamom. I think I brought some up here. It's one of my favorite spices. It's a little heating for pitta, but you don't have to use it in excess. And a little bit of cardamom. So this is again from Banyan. Banyan Botanicals has a lot of the spices that you need, by the way. And then you're going to heat that up and you're going to let it come to a soft boil. And then once it has come to a soft boil, you let it do its thing. Turn off the stove and then put that in a blender with 1 or 2 dates. Those big suckers, right? So 2 dates is going to make it very sweet. 1, obviously, a little less sweet. So I put 1.5. And you're going to blend that up and it's going to get frothy. And then sit down and enjoy the drink while you cruise through your Ayurvedic cookbooks, right? So you have your little notepad next to you, you have your delicious ojas building drink, your sleepy time drink, and you go through your recipe book. And you just start becoming familiar. Okay, this looks good, right? I've never heard of this. What is that, right? And then start to look. Here, I'm going to make this. Black-eyed pea bhaji. I need black-eyed peas, garlic, cilantro, ginger, coconut, safflower oil, mustard seeds, cumin seeds. Hing. What's hing? Hing is this thing called, and I never say it right, asafoetida or asafoetida. I should know how to say it. I'm sorry. But basically, hing is this, and it's a garlic and onion substitute. Yes, because garlic and onions are rajasic. So anyway, that's what hing is. If you come across that and you're like, I don't know what that is. Curry leaves. Yes, you can get those dried. I've been looking for curry leaf tree seeds forever, but I can't find any. If anyone has any, I would love a donation to your seeds. But anyway, curry leaves. Ajwain is another spice, turmeric, cayenne pepper, and salt. Okay, so I start writing down all the ingredients I need. Okay, so you just begin to build this Ayurvedic kitchen through reading your cookbooks and making your lists. I would suggest that you store everything in, the ball jars. Now, when you order, stuff like red lentils and mung dal, behind our sage, Dhanvantari, I have quinoa. You can store your rice in these ball jars. Great. For your spices, here's turmeric, right? For your spices, maybe use the smaller jars. You don't really want to buy your spices in too much bulk, especially if you live in a place like Hawaii where it's very hot, because they can go rancid and it's gross, right? Especially old cumin is disgusting. So you want to not buy such big bulk of your spices. Put them in ball jars. And although it looks pretty, like to have them all like in your kitchen, all your, it's like so nice and grounding to like see your spices and your pulses, and it looks pretty. You don't want to. You want to keep it in your cupboard where it's dark, yeah? You really want it cool and dark is the best. So just at least dark, and don't buy bulk spices. Yeah, bulk lentils are okay, bulk grains are okay, but not bulk spices. Okay, so you just go ahead and on your list, put down ball jars. I think you get them at Home Depot. They have them at Ace up here on the North Shore. So wherever. They even have ball jars that are tinted. I have some dark purple ones, or they have turquoise ones, and you can do that. Okay, so sit down with your delicious nighttime drink or your CCFT if your digestion is heavy and sluggish and you feel like, ugh, have CCFT and start creating your list. Okay? What else do I want to tell you? Just one sec. Okay. Let's see if it's here. Okay, so I wanted to tell you what Dr. Lad says about ghee. Now, Pitta types really like to know, well, why am I going to eat ghee? Why does she keep pushing this ghee? What's in it for me? So this is what's in it for you. Ghee is digestive. It helps to improve absorption, which is key, and assimilation. It nourishes ojas. So ojas is basically love. It nourishes ojas, tejas, and prana. So tejas is like the luminosity of the flame, right? It's like courage, strength. Prana, I'm sure you're familiar with. Prana is the subtle essence of vata, and prana is life force, right? It is good for improving memory and lubricates the connective tissues. Ghee makes the body flexible, and in small doses is tridoshic. Ghee carries the medicinal properties of herbs into the 7 dhatus or tissues of the body. So when you're cooking your Ayurvedic foods, don't rush it, right? So think of it again as a sadhana. The food is 50% of health. So it's like, just take your time with it. So you put the ghee in the pan, not on high heat. Most pittas will go right to high heat, like let's get this party started. So medium heat, you put your spices, whatever the recipe calls for, and wait, right? Shake the pan and let the spices open up into the ghee. Ghee pacifies pitta and vata and it is acceptable in moderation for kapha. Persons who already have high cholesterol or suffer from obesity should be cautious in using ghee. Ghee should not be used when there is high ama or toxic conditions. So sluggishness, heaviness, you're feeling tamasic, lethargy, you're not pooping very well, excuse me, you won't want to go crazy with the ghee. Okay? So in that ojas drink that I told you about, you could also put a little bit of ghee. Those of us who have a lot of vata in the constitution, after the meal is done, you have the meal on your plate, you can dab just a few extra drops of ghee on top. And again, it's nourishing, right? It helps with assimilation, it helps with absorption. Again, buy good ghee or make your own ghee, which you can easily find on YouTube, how to make ghee using organic grass-fed butter. Yes? Okay, so the books that I'll recommend, and clearly I don't have all the Ayurvedic cookbooks, so I'm sure there's other fantastic ones out there. This is a definite, for sure. Ayurvedic Cooking for Self-Healing. It's very educational. It'll tell you many things, so I would suggest this. And then we have the one I showed you, 100 Simple Sattvic Recipes, is absolutely wonderful. Muffins in here, teaches you how to make sattvic spice concoctions. Anyway, another one by the same author is the Everyday Ayurveda Cookbook. And again, what's so great about Ayurvedic cookbooks is they're not going to have poor food combining, right? So you don't have to think about the food combining if you follow these recipes, right? Because they're not going to do poor food combining, so you're good. Okay? So this is the Everyday Ayurveda Cookbook. Another thing, Ayurveda is really unique compared to other ways of eating, is eating accordance to the seasons. So not just eating food that's in season, but as an example, if it's winter time, right, which is kapha time, I'm not going to want to eat a lot of super duper light foods. I need to have a little bit heavier foods, especially if I'm vata dosha, right? So more potatoes, a little bit more meat, a little bit heavier foods. In the summer, when it's hot and dry, we want to eat a little bit lighter and a little bit more cooling. So if you continue to eat a very heavy meat-based diet in the summer, it's going to aggravate pitta, which is going to increase heat and inflammation. So does this make sense? So Ayurveda will always have their, well, I don't think Lodz does, but a lot of them do, have recipes for the season. So they'll be broken down into the first chapters, whatever, fall, then winter, then spring, then summer. So that makes it very convenient for your cooking. I also mentioned to you Eat, Taste, Heal. This is my first Ayurvedic cookbook. Is excellent. And then this recent one I just received as a gift, thank you, Barbara, was What to Eat for How You Feel. So this is a wonderful book, and you'll start to find recipes like any recipe book that you go to more. So khichdi is definitely going to be a recipe that you're going to nail, that you're going to have down when you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to eat today. Just have khichdi, right? Because it's going to have the ghee in it, it's going to have the spices in it, it's going to have the protein in it, and then you can also add to your khichdi, greens. So when it's like almost done cooking, lift up the lid, stuff a bunch of greens, whatever. I usually use, what is it called, rainbow chard, or this is like tree spinach. I don't know what the real name of it is, but it's called tree spinach, or collards, or whatever. You put some greens, put the top on, let it steam for a little bit, and then mix it all up, and now you've had your bitter vegetables, which are really good for summer. So anyway, her book is excellent as well, and it's also divided into seasons. And she has meal plans for you, and she has education in the beginning of the book, she has a Instagram page where she, has a little tidbit. I don't know if she does it every day, but I don't even know how to say her name. Divya Alter, what to eat for how you feel. So you just have a little library, right, of your Ayurvedic cookbooks. Maybe you have them in your kitchen. That would be good. And, doggy ear your pages that you go to mostly. And just enjoy. I have here, this is turmeric milk mix. Some of you may enjoy this like midday at the Vata time of day. When you're like slumping around like 3 or 4. And it's like you want to eat something, you're hungry, but you're tired too, and who knows? And you go for a coffee. Instead, make a turmeric latte. So this is again from Banyan Botanicals, and you can put it in whatever milk you prefer. And then the last thing I'll share with you is the Chyawanprash. So the Chyawanprash is an Ayurvedic jam. Here they say promotes rejuvenation and proper function of the immune system. Oh, well, that would be good, right? So they also have immune support. I have a plethora of these products, so if you need any, please just contact the studio and we can get you them. But I have tons of Chyawanprash and immune support. So this also is going to increase ojas. It's nice to have on an empty stomach. So usually I'll have it in the morning. You take a teaspoon, whatever you want, and you just lick it, right? It's sticky. And you just lick it. And then you can follow it with your hot water with lime and ginger, lemon water. And it has a fruit called amalaki or amala fruit, and it has such a high potency of vitamin C. So it's not vegan because it has ghee, the nectar of the gods. So I would get your hands on some Chyawanprash. The Himalayan Institute also has a Chyawanprash, which both of my sons love. And believe me, everyone's Chyawanprash tastes different. So this one I find a little bit more spicy. The Chyawanprash from the Himalayan Institute is sweet. So it's also nice to have midday when you're craving something sweet, or at least I am, right? Craving something sweet is have a tablespoon, a teaspoon of Chyawanprash. Yeah. There's another, my favorite Chyawanprash so far is from Try Health Spa Ayurveda. Try, T-R-I, Health Spa Ayurveda. They're on Kauai, and their Chyawanprash is very good. And then there's also a company called Hana, H-A-N-A 1-O-N-E, and they have a Chyawanprash. I don't think they call it Chyawanprash. I don't know what they call it, but it's Chyawanprash. And then there's another company called Sun Potion. They call theirs Prash. Theirs is interesting. Theirs is very thick. It's different. So there's no two Chyawanprashas alike. So you may want to start your day with Chyawanprash or have it midday. Alrighty, there's more to say, but we'll just have a part 2. So please start. You will really feel so connected to food, to earth, to this food as medicine. And, again, just start with your cleaning your kitchen, creating the space. Order maybe 2 Ayurveda cookbooks. Sit down and just start to write down the spices that you need. Get your ball jars, your ghee, your moong dal for sure, your basmati rice. Okay? Really get familiar with the khichdi recipes. Banyan Botanicals, their website is extremely informative. Wow, and they have many recipes for khichdi on their site. You can eat khichdi for many days. You can go on a mono diet where you have khichdi for 3 days, 7 days, whatever amount of days, and they can guide you through that. They have a nice program on their website. So I was the personality type where it's just like eat to fuel, right? Keep going, just eat, I'm full, now I can continue to go. And okay, that's all right, but to cook and to really establish a relationship with food, you're establishing a relationship with the earth, with Ma, with your first mother, Ma. That's something you can chant in your kitchen while you cook. Ma. Thank you so much. If any of you are interested in an Ayurveda consultation, just contact the studio. We're offering a special now. And if any of you are interested in learning more about Ayurveda, you're not sure about the dosha types, please refer to our other videos on the website on Intro to Ayurveda. It's 3 parts. And if you really want to go for it, we have a 500-hour Ayurveda teacher training that's starting November 2020, which will be done through live Zoom and recorded sessions. It's Vamadeva Shastri David Frawley's course that he's given me permission to offer you. So that course starts in November, and really you can take it anytime you want. If you don't want to do it live, and we can just send you the recordings. Okay, I hope I did not overwhelm you. I hope you got the basics. And I hope you enjoy this just beautiful way to nourish yourself, right, through food. Okay, thank you.